Yeah, Dennis rocking out over there in the background. Aces
Love
up.
that. Love it, man. Love it.
Aces up. Episode 34 is here. I'm here with the older, wise, crafty veteran gentleman, the Professor John Bush, and Dennis at the Mike Media, Dennis Michelson. What's going on, guys?
You the man. We ready to make some money for some people.
Nice. Let's do it.
If they're doing some best ball drafts, maybe now's the time to beat some of these cats out there before the draft. I don't know. It could be risky.
It's a scary time in fantasy football because what can look like a great team today, if you do a draft, can look like trash come draft day in about 10 days. So it's a dangerous time to put the old foot in the water, but it's a fun time too.
Quite the opposite could happen too. You could end up falling ass backwards into a powerhouse up and down all the way across the board team. So based on some of these values.
Absolutely. And if you apply a sound strategy, and in my opinion, when you're playing best ball, I get to about round 10, 11, and all I care about is upside, Joe. I do not care about drafting ordinary guys. I look at who's going to give me 6 or more solid games if everything goes right for them. And that's kind of the difference between best ball and redraft. You got to play upside though. You got to look for potential rather than safety. You know, do you really want a guy that's going to go out and get you 6, 7 points every week? No. The answer is no. You want the guy who's going to get you 15 for a couple of weeks, and you want a whole roster full of upside potential guys, and just hope you don't get screwed with bad luck all in the same week, having your donut hole guys all in the same week.
Right. So we did a show about 2 months ago. It was episode 29. So, but it wasn't 4 weeks ago. I did take some time in between episodes. So it's a couple of months ago. We covered very early best ball ADP. And tonight we're gonna revisit some of the same stuff that we went over in that show, only with the updated data. And the professor's going to provide us with. You did a bunch of research on the ADP. I put together a list of guys that I know. I noticed a little bit of movement on based on the free agency. Free agency has happened since then. We have a little bit more knowledge about the rookie class. The NFL draft still hasn't taken place. Once that happens, it's going to shake up at all the ADP again a little bit to an extent that what we're doing tonight makes tonight a little bit moot. But again, this is an exercise. This is something, if you want to keep up with ADP value data, you don't have to be married to ADP. You can throw it out the window come draft day, but it gives us a good idea on where the general public valued these players. So it's something to pay attention to.
One of the things that the professor and I are always talking about is spotting the patterns of what is happening in ADP. So you understand, hey, if I go this way with a running back early, when should I have my RB2, RB3, RB4s and my second, third, fourth wide receivers? When do I need to have those secured if I don't want to be picking from a bad pile? And that is irregardless of who those players are. I think too many people get entrenched on a particular player. We look at each round as a bunch of opportunities, and the professor has done better work than anybody else I've seen in the business of understanding where those key break points are. And it doesn't mean that if the draft's heavy wide receiver, that's the way we're going. we try to take the opposite approach a lot of times and go fishing in a little different pond. And that's irregardless of who the players are. I don't care about the players. I just care about the value. And I think that's what makes us a little bit more unique versus some of the folks that are out there.
I like that, Dennis. That goes with roster construction. You know, you're taking a look at the pool of each position, and you're making sure that when you're building your team, you don't have position scarcity. You're not weak in one spot and too strong in another. You're looking for that gap in the draft board to decide how you're going to construct your roster going throughout the draft. Have a good idea about where you're going to get some of these guys. So
and I have no problem with the people that say, hey, I just want to get my guys, and if you're getting your guys at a reasonable value and then you add in the right players to go with your guys, I don't have a problem with that. But the professor and I are always looking at the draft as, how can I make money from this move? It's no different than when you're playing poker, Joe, and every turn of the cards in a poker game changes the odds and changes the value of the cards in your hand. The same thing happens with a fantasy football draft. Every move I make sets me up and sets the other 11 people in the draft up for a different route that the draft can take. And you don't want to be the tail end gunner on a long run. You want to lead the next run, and that's what the professor's data really helps us do.
Correct. All right. So basically, Professor, what do you got for us, man? What do you want to start
okay.
with?
Did you, Joe, did you want to share some of this, or I'll kind of verbally describe what I'm seeing? How do you I don't know, sharing capability.
We can share. You can share it, and then I have to add it to the screen.
Oh, okay. So do I? Let's see here.
If you want to do that, then we can show them the charts. If we can't figure it, I mean, I think we did that the last time. We put up a couple of charts.
Yeah. Let's see. Does it say share screen? If I do that, screen sharing.
Yeah, it's the little monitor down the bottom with the plus sign there, I believe.
Let's see. I will. Oh, I see. This is wanting me to share. Okay. Yeah, I think I saw that before. Somebody says, "Hey, friends. Hey, friends."
That's Wendy and Rachel Tootsie Pop. Appreciate you ladies tuning in.
Hey, friends. So, yeah. I don't know how to share it.
BFM Pete in there. Always Jamie and James. Appreciate you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. That's right, Pete.
Like and subscribe. Joe, I do not know how to share this right now. I can share my tabs. I forgot how we did this. Did I send you an actual image file? Because I sent you the PowerPoint, but I could turn it into image files.
It's not a big deal. Why don't you just discuss what you have?
Okay, sure. So I am going to share this on our TSA Discord under the best ball. So you can, all our friends can catch up there. So they need to subscribe to all our business, the videos, and we have a Discord. And I'm going to put this in the best ball bucket, and you can see the latest figures. So I will do that after the show, probably tomorrow. First thing I do, and so you can write down my process as well, but it's probably easier to just look at what I do. But I'm looking at gaps in each position. So I have wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, and quarterbacks. And I actually marked out gaps and rounds and get an idea of where things start falling. So in big terms, the RBs and the WRs really don't start gapping until around 5 and 6. So pretty much people are pretty steady each round grabbing multiples of those. Your team, your league is grabbing probably 2 RBs, 2 W, maybe slip in a tight end. The reason I'm not saying quarterbacks, this is a funny time, Dennis. I haven't even showed you this, and maybe we'll start with this first that just struck me. Josh Allen is at the 2-3 gap, and the next quarterback is early round 5. So there is roughly a 2-round difference between Josh Allen and then about 3 quarterbacks. And then it's like there is a big run in, this is the FFPC Best Ball Slim. There is a big run of about 12 or 13 right after that, round 6, 7, and 8. People are going crazy for quarterbacks. So people are holding off and then they're jumping on. So it looks like balance wise, they're grabbing 2 RBs, 2 WRs, and then they're hitting the quarterbacks here. Tight ends are sprinkled throughout, Dennis, a lot more. And but I want to stop now and hear y'all's opinion. Is Josh Allen worth 2 rounds of value over the next 2 or 3 quarterbacks here for best ball? That struck. That was a big question. I don't know if you realize that has happened. That gap wasn't as bad as it is now. I don't know what people are seeing or doing. Has free agency made it better for Buffalo, or what is going on there? What are people seeing? I can't explain 2 rounds of value between him and everybody else. I would not pick him now at all. If he was closer in the pack, say round 4 or so, I'm gonna think about it, but not at 2-3, not at that turn there.
Yeah, I'm gonna add something here, Joe, if you don't mind.
Yep.
This is the big difference, the biggest difference to me between best ball and redraft. In best ball, I don't feel like I need an elite quarterback. So 2-3 would be way too early for me to take a quarterback, unless it's, obviously it's a best ball super flex league you're in. But in a 1 quarterback,
this is
best
a 1
ball,
quarterback.
yeah, this is a 1 quarterback best ball. That much space between the 2 between him and QB2, I don't know if the value will be there, because the running back or wide receiver that you're going to get at 2 or 3 combined with like 5 to 10 QB 5 to 10,
Right.
versus the running back or wide receiver you're going to get a few rounds later. The difference is just not going to pay off.
Dennis, he was 27th in March 3rd, and Lamar Jackson was number 2 at 45, and then Drake May 49. And then now it's 24, 52, and 53. So Jackson and May have declined. They've gone further down the ADP into round 5. And like I said, there is a big gap. So Lamar Jackson actually went from 27 to 24. He dropped. They wanted him more now than they did 5 weeks ago. And the others they've all declined except for Trevor Lawrence is the is the sixth one, and he's declined, but the rest of them have gone up. They've gotten cheaper. So again, I don't understand why he has gotten better, wherever a lot of them have gotten worse. That's just strange to me. There you go. So see right there, look at that. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I think you guys bought me. You bought me enough time that I could do that.
I'm sorry, but to me, Dennis, and Joe, that's just crazy. There's no way I would take him. I mean, at 24, in other words, I'm losing out on some type of WR or RB that's probably very solid and intriguing, and I can pick some of these other ones, other quarterbacks here. So I don't, and this is these are some serious people here. Here's all my secret stuff here.
What's current best ball draft patterns by sixes? So this is every six.
So six. So right here, the arrows are 12s. So this is the, for instance, WR. The first 12 are drafted right before round 4. Look at running backs. First 12 are drafted before the end of round 2. So something's really gone on about the running backs. But the quarterbacks, look at that. 12 are gone by round 7. But Allen is sitting right there where the tip of my pointer is. So that is just so crazy. Everybody else is stacked together, Dennis. Joe, I don't get that. I'm having trouble figuring that out.
I noticed a lot of, so I've done like maybe 3 or 4 best ball drafts, well, maybe more than that, but I've done a handful of best ball drafts. And one thing I've noticed is the people who don't get Josh Allen early, they will wait. And when they wait, and when they do take a quarterback, they usually take 2 right away, or 2 like back to back, or like 1 in round 6, 1 in round 8, 1 in round 7, 1 in round 9, like kind of like that.
24 are gone by the end of 11. So if you're playing that strategy, this pattern says, you need to figure out, are you happy with the 24th quarterback as your second? So again, I'm like what you're saying. I have done that is turned around and done a double. In fact, Dennis is the one who pushed that thinking on me to strongly consider that is for best ball. We're not talking redraft.
Right. Yeah. No, there's no reason to take back-to-back quarterbacks in round 7 in redraft.
I've been doing that lately, Joe, in redraft, and having great success with it. And the reason that I've gone that route is because there've been so much time lost by some of your key quarterbacks lately that grabbing that second one a little bit earlier than you might think has been kind of a good insurance plan. And then I can go ahead and kind of, play the matchups a little bit. And so I'm not getting a top 6 quarterback, but I'm getting 2 in that 7 to 12 range. And it's giving me the flexibility. But again, that's if I'm already fairly happy with how I've led off at running back and wide receiver. And I've got some of my aces in the hole that I like at both positions that I can wait on an extra round or 2, and usually a running back. Running back, my strategy is fairly similar in both best ball and redraft. Although in redraft, I probably draft a hell of a lot more running backs than anybody else in the league. It's not uncommon.
Dennis, circling back, what do you think of Josh Allen?
I can't justify that early. I can't justify him that early.
Okay. Sometimes when I think about these, what are people thinking about?
they're
What are
thinking
they?
about.
What is going on? I just don't explain that to you. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, if you look at any of our consistency metrics that we put together, and you
Yes.
look at the last 3 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
he's the only guy that is like a lock for top 3, top 4
So
each of
you
the
think
last 3.
again he's a lock this year?
I think
Yeah.
he's as safe as can be.
Yeah.
Is
But
that
the
because of
problem,
his running? Is that
that's
because of his
because of
running?
running. But here's where I will say he's another year older. We know running
See,
quarterbacks
that's what
tend
worries
to
me.
slow down with the running. Yeah. And a big part of his performance advantage have been the rushing touchdowns.
Yes.
If those drop off,
That's not. I don't think that drops off though, Dennis. I think maybe the rushing attempts drop off a little bit, but the touchdowns I think are always going to be there.
Okay. Well,
perhaps, but
so Joe,
you got
would you take him at round 2? End
It's
of round 2, 3?
not in best ball. I think I would have more of a chance taking him in redraft than best ball, because I think in redraft he might slip a little bit. He might go a little bit later than where he's going now in best ball, just because people approach redraft a little differently. But no, in best ball, no, I'm not taking him at the 2-3 turn when when a bunch of quarterbacks are going in round 5 and 6, right? 5, 6, 7.
where is Jared Goff going in? Where is Jared Goff going in the latest ADP?
Golf is going. Oh, you got him at a bargain. He's in the 8th round, Dennis.
See, he's a guy.
He's a 92 overall. But
he's a guy that in best ball, I'm more likely to take him than in redraft.
Quarterback 16.
Ooh, that's a huge bargain, because you're looking at a guy who, when he's playing at home, is a QB6 performance. He gets QB6 performances if you look at his home games combined. So I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, they like I said, right now in the ADP from the FFPC, it's Allen, and then 5th round Jackson, May, Burrow, then 6th round Daniels, Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Hurts, 7th round Stafford, Herbert, Dart, Purdy, Prescott, 8th round Mahomes, Nix, Goff. Seems like a lot of gravy in the 7th and 8th round to me.
I would not mind opening a draft with Mahomes and Goff as my QBs to target, and then just figure out what I'm going to do with a 3rd quarterback late. Hell, maybe I'll take Justin Fields as an insurance
you
policy.
You could pick up
rounds.
Kirk Cousins in the 18th to make your 3rd.
Yeah.
Somebody
or Fields
could get you.
Fields might be a good parting gift.
Personally, Brissett is in the 12th, and I really, if he lives up to what he did last year, I could. That's intriguing to me. Him as my 2nd. Try to get greedy, and do a late play and try to stack up with tight ends and running backs, and then have Brissett as my 2nd and grab some of these other, like a Purdy or somebody, as my 1st.
Joe, question for you.
Yes, sir.
With Arizona covering that position with Minshew, is that a sign that they're not going to take a rookie not even think about taking a rookie quarterback this year? Or if they take one, not going to play him?
Yeah, I think it's possible they take one, but I don't think it's going to be high draft capital. And then you factor in the fact that next year is a better crop of quarterbacks coming through. Yeah, I'm in on Brissett this year. I have a dynasty team that I made a win now trade because I have it's a super flex, 3 wide receiver, 3 flex, must start 2 tight end format. No kicker, no defense. And I traded Jaden Daniels in the 105 and moved up to the 102, and
Nice.
I got Ashton Genty.
Wow.
Because I trust Jacoby Brissett as my number 2 super quarterback, with Bo Nix as my other
Nice.
going in,
Nice.
and I needed to add firepower to the running back room, and that's what I did. So,
And what do you think? What are you leaning for with that rookie pick?
probably Mendoza, but I'm also going to explore trading it. So,
Oh, that's a good move. I like that move.
It's a pretty active league, so I feel like if I really want to make a trade happen, it could maybe even be done, but who knows? There's some sharp guys in that league. They might know that the 102 is like the biggest bust pick in the first five or six picks of rookie drafts over the last few years. So, give or take a couple of outliers, but the 103 and the 104 have been better as of recent. So.
Right.
We'll explore a trade, but yeah, to my point, what was my point? What the hell was?
He was just asking about Arizona and your trust.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
Brissett. Yeah.
Well, he's going in the 12th in best ball, and it looks like a really nice number 2, and you just. Again, the schedule is going to determine the streaming strength of some of these other guys. So that's why I usually like to see the schedule so I can do what Dennis said was his, 1-2 punch when he grabs 2 close together to redraft, because you want them to have a different bye week, and you're looking like a golf. It's the home field. You want to know when and where he's doing that. So I do like to have that information there.
Yeah, and the way I like to approach quarterback in best ball, again, I'm not looking at one particular guy. I'm looking at the pattern, and I'm quite often I'm counting. Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to take 2 pretty quick back to back. I want to get 2 in the top 12 if I can. Okay, 2 in the top 12 of quarterbacks off the board. And so a lot of times I'll be counting cards, man. I'll be, okay, 5 off the board. What's my likelihood if I take one now? And of course, there's got to be one that I like still on the board. What's my likelihood of getting that second one before everybody else starts getting their second one? And that's kind of the game I like to play sometimes at quarterback. But I'm looking at the depth of the field. And yes, there's like 3 guys that you really would like if they were all priced equal. If Josh Allen was being drafted, only 1 round ahead of everybody else, then he's obviously the pick. And there's a couple others that I'll say I have rated higher, most likely rated higher. But then you get sort of the same old. You've got guys that like Goff, who's got that home away split. You got Brissett, who really looked good in mop-up role last year. My concern with Arizona is with the coaching change. Do they tighten up that defense at all, where they're not looking at playing from 2 touchdowns down early in the game like they were last year? Last year, they were a doormat early in a lot of those games, and that's why Brissett looked good. But when I'm looking at the quarterback grouping, I'll spot my maybe like 5 to 8 value guys that I kind of like. I will circle where the professor has them going. And that way, when I get to that round, I know, okay, if I want this guy, I've got to move. If he's still on the board, I got to move because he's not going to make it back to me the next pick. And then it's just a case of when I execute that double whammy of taking two in a hurry. And, you know, the later I go, the quicker I am grabbing that second guy. And that's why a lot of times if I wait until the 7th round, now I got usually 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers I really like, or 4-2 with the edge to the right running backs maybe. And now I'm drafted in round 7. I'd already passed on the tight ends at value that I really like. Now I'm going to go shopping late for them. But now I can take a look at that quarterback. But having the professor's chart like this and knowing where guys are going in a typical draft, I can then react to what is happening in my own draft.
So, folks, like I said, I'm going to put this on the TSA Discord. Y'all all should subscribe and be our friends. We're pretty friendly folks over at TSA. So come on, be our friend, and I'll keep stacking my data. And like I said, Joe got this show going, so it made me have to do this work. So that's good. And and I've got Dennis. He's on assignment. He's going to do his opportunity index, Joe, and that has really enlightened me when he gives us some thinking in bets, probabilities of some of these rookies and people who are changing. So I'm going to be looking at patterns. I'm going to be looking at Dennis's opportunity, his wisdom, and then our consistency. And then I'm ready to get semi-serious in best ball to warm up for my big swings in my $35 redraft leagues that I like to play about 40 or 50 of those, put down some money and, try to snag a bunch of championships. But that's kind of what I'm doing there. But, stay tuned for Dennis's opportunity stuff. That's his homework the professor gave him. And he will be punished if he doesn't get me that on time.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
We'll have to sit in the corner with the dunce hat. And but anyway, Joe, that's another piece to that. I like my patterns. I like to know, but then Dennis provides secret stuff as well as opportunities and his knowledge of the rookies. And that's good stuff.
I like that sit in the corner. When I was in kindergarten, I cut through the dotted line when I was supposed to fold over it, and the art teacher made me sit in the corner because I ruined the project.
Oh man,
The funny thing,
I don't think they can do that these days. Yeah,
lawsuit.
The funny thing, Joe, is that this all happened. This whole challenging me to think in bets happened last year because the previous 2 years, I was really good at finding the openings, and I knew why I was finding the openings. It was just because the players that were the incumbents at a position really sucked. And so a few years ago, it was Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua that were the stars that I snagged. Although the professor got pissed off, rightfully so, because I didn't tell him about Nacua until a little bit later in the game. Sorry about that, Professor.
I didn't get enough of him. Dennis told me late August, and I was like, I've already done about 30 drafts here, but the last 10, I was reaching for Nacua that year when he got hot. But just like St. Brown, we were ahead of him the year he broke. And so, it was good stuff. But Dennis was a little slow. So now I'm making him do this, Joe,
just
earlier.
Right after the draft. He just pushes me around now.
That's his homework.
But
Yeah.
what I found, all kidding aside, what I discovered last year is I discovered why we're finding these holes. Because what I did is I looked at changes at the running back position, and it was so much more glaring than changes at any other position. And at the running back position, if the incumbent that had the job currently going into training camp did not have, if he had not posted an 80 or higher on his MVP index, which is a measure of upside consistency,
A
80 is
threshold, a threshold.
yeah, yes. At 80 is typically about RB 20. Okay. RB 20 or better if you're over 80 points. And so what I found is that every single one of the changing running back situations had an incumbent with a running back under 80 points. When you hit 100% on anything, it's, first of all, it seldom happens. And this is over the course of 4 seasons. Okay. Now, it didn't mean that if the incumbent had less than, it didn't mean that he didn't come back and eventually get the job. It just meant they were going to go shopping for somebody. They were going to add somebody to the roster. Did it always pan out? Of course not. But you got the opportunity, and hence the opportunity index was born. And last year, everybody was like, oh, Tyrone Tracy did so good for the Giants the year before. I was like, no, this is Scadabo's job if he's any damn good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we drafted a lot of Scadabo
Yes,
because
we did.
he was going at a good price. Now, he did get hurt, but boy, that was a good ride while it lasted at the beginning of the season. So the idea is, and the other classic one was the Dallas Cowboys
Yeah.
starting position. But in that case, had no clue who it was going to be. Could have been Malik Davis, could have been Miles Sanders, could have been Jaden Blue, could have been Javonte Williams. Now, they were all going at a great ADP. So the solution was easy. Take 2. They're small. And one of them is going to pay off. I ended up with a lot of Javonte Williams, and I didn't even like him as a player. But I liked his cost. His cost was dirt damn cheap. So that's the thing there that I you don't have to be in love with the player, you have to be in love with the price, because if that starting position is worth something, it's going to pay off, especially in best ball. In redraft, maybe it won't pay off where he's a starter every week, but he'll probably be one of your flex considerations, and that's the whole game plan. So I've just started charting the players from last season. I've got the roster, depth charts all set, and I'm setting my high and low limits based on what that player has done in the past. And I'll have my opportunity index targets and just waiting for the draft to see if anybody comes home to those spots. But you can thank the professor for making me think in bets last year, because it really worked out quite well.
Nice. All right.
I'm just waiting for Joe to jump in.
No, I'm listening. I was listening to Dennis, man. He was on a roll there.
Okay.
Going on with the identifying the situation.
Yeah, the soft spots.
Yeah.
So the next pattern that I want to draw everybody's attention to is running backs are dominating in the first 4 rounds, and that's a little different in 5 weeks ago. 30 running backs, and I've got this in another chart, that have gone cost more, right? So the ADP has declined 30, and only 3 have gone up. So something is really, people's opinions switched from a little bit more bias to the wide receivers, and now they're all on the running backs. It's like everybody woke up and says, hey, I need to go grab I'm wondering how many in your league would be grabbing 2 in the first, with the first 4 rounds, they're grabbing 3. I could see, when I see this kind of pattern, I'm thinking, it wouldn't surprise me. There's a lot more people going RB, 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 WR, or RB, WR, RB, RB, trying to really stack the RB position. That's what's gone up and changed in the last 5 weeks, is this movement going higher up the ADP here, and 30 RBs. It's been really biased that way. Only 3 have declined the other 30. So of 33 changes, what I call dramatic changes, 30 have gone, going to cost you more in ADP value. They've gone closer up to the top. So I think that's really, I don't know what's driving that in the last 5 weeks. Is that free agency? What has driven that movement? And before I turn it over, I will say in the next couple of years, I'm going to follow this, but maybe if I'm a WR happy guy, maybe there was more value like now than early. So, if you could pick times to focus on. So it depends on your opinion. Are you really high on a lot of WRs this year? Maybe now this is a good time to get them before maybe they boomerang back and you lose your value. It just looks to me like there's some really interesting things happening between the bias of those 2 main positions that people fight over in the first 4 or 5 rounds.
So my thoughts on that, Professor, is
Sure.
I think that free agency, we've seen a couple of teams add like a third running back. Like Tampa Bay went out and they got Gainwell. They have Tucker, Gainwell, Bucky Irvin. Just I think free agency has a lot to do with it. You see in teams going into using 2, some of them now even using 3 running backs. So when you have that elite running back that can play 3 downs, or that's getting the snap shares, or they're getting the 5+ targets, the 6+ targets, that becomes a premium. It provides more consistency for these running backs in the top tier. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I think people want to make sure they have at least one, and I feel like you get a little bit of a positional advantage if you can grab 2 good ones. And just the way the evolution of NFL offenses involving the running back more in the passing game, and it's I feel like there's no clear cut, like very few teams have an actual alpha one that gets 12, 13 targets a game. Offenses are starting to spread the ball out more. So as a whole, as a unit, as a whole position, wide receiver itself is taking a little bit of a dip in value. Of course, outside of the premium guys like Jamar Chase, and, there are still some alpha wide receiver ones, but I see more offenses spreading the ball as opposed to being condensed to just 2 or 3 targets. So I think that has a little bit to do with it. I think running backs in the top tier provide safe consistency at the position. And then, if you're a strong wide receiver drafter, you in histories, if you go back in your diary, as the professor likes to call it, the diary.
Oh, yeah. Got to have your diary.
And you have a history of hitting on those mid-round, round 7, round 8, all the way through round 13, round 14, even on wide receivers, then you need to play to your strengths, and you need to lock up a couple of top tier running backs, and then trust your drafting skills and what you do, and build your team that way. So I think it's a combination of a bunch of things, but it's surprising because zero running back had its nice little run for a little bit there. But I think that there is a premium on the elite group, the top tier of running backs.
So before Dennis answers, let me just give you this last bit of data, Dennis, because I know you itching here. 5 weeks ago, Lamb, Jefferson, London, Neighbors, Collins, Pickens, Olave, Rice. Okay. It was 12, 15, 17, 18, 23, 26, 28. And now it's 15, 18, 22, 23, 27, 30, 31, 32, 35, 37, 40. So notice it's like, over 20, 25% shift down, decline in, in the ADP, Dennis, that has happened in 5. So I'm looking at the top or Chase, Nakua, JSN, and Brown. Okay, round 1. But I'm saying in recent times, the round 2 is where the shift has really happened. A lot of the round 2 guys have dropped into round 3. Round 3 have shifted into round 4 wide receivers. So that's part of that shift. So RBs have gone up, WR's gone down in those crucial early rounds.
So I think what we are seeing with this shift to running backs is an emotional reaction to what happened last year. And by that, I mean, we had fewer of the top running backs get hurt or have disappointing seasons than we had wide receivers who were taken early. Guys like Malik Neighbors, who went down with an injury. Guys like Justin Jefferson, who proved that there is no such thing as being quarterback proof, even for a great player. So people got burned by guys like that. And I think as a result, they're going, oh, these running backs were safe. Well, you got to look at more than just a 1-year picture. And the professor and I debated this last Saturday on our podcast of how much data in the past is too much data, because the NFL game is always evolving and always changing. Okay. We know that. You were just talking about how the game is changing, Joe, that spreading the ball around more, except for those few elite wide receivers, splitting the touches between 2 or now 3 running backs in some cases. The idea of even more specialized players is happening. But I would suggest that looking back 5 years is still fairly comfortable, because you can have something that happens last year and it might not be a trend. It's 1 point. It's not 2 points to get a line, okay, on a graph. If I look at the last 5 years and I look at my top of the tiers, my elite guys, and I look at my MVP index, 120 or above is always elite. It varies how many players hit that mark any given year. Last year, it was 5 running backs and 4 wide receivers that had a full season, 10 or more games, and hit 120 on the MVP. Over the course of the last 5 years, the median is 4 running backs and 5 wide receivers. So there's no difference. There's just as many super elite running backs as super elite wide receivers. If you look at 100 MVP, which is typically your RB1s and your WR1s, your top 12 guys, 13 running backs, typically 11 wide receivers hit that 100 mark. So a slight edge to running backs. Last year, it was 11-10 running backs to wide receivers. So it was almost even. It was as close to even as you can get. And if you look a little bit deeper, you look to WR or your top 24 at each position. Typically, that's a 70 MVP to get 23 running backs. And that same 70 gets you actually 28 wide receivers. So the wide receiver elite, second best guy, your WR2 starter, there's actually a few more of those than running backs. I think what we're seeing, because that super elite number at the top of the draft, that's what you're drafting in your first round, right?
Yeah.
That hasn't changed over the years. It's stayed fairly constant over the last 5 years. It's been pretty close to even each and every year, yet our psychology changes every year. Some years, running back heavy. Some years, wide receiver elite heavy. It has nothing to do with the data. It has to do with just what happened last year. We chased last year way too much in fantasy football. I think that's what we're seeing with this progression here. And I think this is also
Joe just put up round 1 and 2 there,
Yep.
and 3 and 4, and you can see it's RBs are dominating,
and what I
in that whole thing.
And what I don't want to get is I don't want to get into the mindset, oh, there's a running back run. I only have one of them, and now there's 15 gone because I grabbed 2 wide receivers. And now I'm grabbing the 16th or the 18th best running back instead of grabbing the 8th or the 10th best wide receiver and having a third wide receiver real early.
Well, there's always going to be a pivot, Dennis. You have to realize that pivot.
You have to make the pivot, but here's what I'm saying, Joe. In a world where you're splitting the touches between 2 running backs, there might be some value by grabbing both Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson on your same best ball team. I've now wrapped up New England. Whoever gets that touchdown, okay, I've got either running back covered in a best ball. I'm feeling pretty good about that. As the professor knows from listening to me, hey, just play them both. I have no problem with playing both in redraft, because if one goes down, the other guy's points are going to go up and vice versa. And the total isn't going to kill you if there is a true split. Now, you get into danger when you've got 3 guys that could be involved in the split, or a situation where you're not sure who number 2 is between those, the second and third, and maybe even the 4th guy on the team. That makes it tough. But I'm kind of leaning into more and more this idea of grabbing the entire backfield, grabbing 2/3 of the backfield at least in a best ball situation, if you get them at an affordable price. I'm not going to take both ends of the New England Patriots running back core if they're going off the board at 8 and 9 or 8 and 10. I don't want any part of that. But if they're both going in the teens, then all of a sudden they're a little bit more attractive to me. But that's how this chart that the professor puts out, and he'll put it out regularly, of updating this and seeing the trends changing. It kind of gives you an idea what the consensus is thinking. And as the professor and I know from earning our education on odds at the horse race track,
Yes.
the one they call the consensus is wrong 2 out of 3 races. That's shocking to people, that the consensus, the top pick in each race, is wrong more often than he's right. So I look at the same thing in fantasy football. Quite often the consensus is moving the needle in the wrong direction. If you can spot those differences, that's the big key. And one of the toughest things that I have a problem with right now in best ball is, how early do I go for a tight end? Am I okay with grabbing 3 and streaming? That's my biggest challenge right now in best ball fantasy football. I know in redraft I want an elite guy if I can get him, and preferably get the cheapest of the elite guys. But in best ball, Joe, I'm curious of your practices, because you probably play a little more best ball than I do.
I usually try to get two good ones. I if and then not take a third. If I do get two really good, and then if I don't end up getting two elite ones, I'll take three. And I'll wait. I won't. If I have one elite and then I miss out on like the tier that I want, once it goes into that middle tier, I probably punt the position for a little bit, because there's always a few tight ends that of value later on for best ball, of course. You tight end 2 and tight end 3. If you have one elite tight end that you drafted already, like say a top 5 or we'll say top 7. If you have a top 7 tight end already, your second and your third tight end only have to combine getting you into the line, giving you a score that gets into your starting lineup in a given week. So I'll put together 2 and 3. Like, I'll take shots on guys I think that have a path to product to relevance. Being a top 2 or top 3 target earner on their team, but they're going later in the draft because they're not elite talents, I guess we'll say. Somebody like a Dalton Schultz, or I don't know. He's the first one that came to mind as a tight end 3 target. Dalton Schultz. I wouldn't rely on him as a 2. Unless of course I got Bowers or McBride. But I like to get 2 good ones and then use the rest of my draft picks elsewhere. That's kind of my tight end best ball strategy. But if I do end up with 3, the second and the third one are usually mid to late round tight ends.
I like that strategy. I'll quite often try to grab one from each one of the ponds. I will want to get an early-ish one, and then I'll take sort of a tight end 6 to 8-ish, off the board, and then I'll take my late sleeper type guy. If I get Bowers or McBride, I might not take that third guy, or I might not take that middle tier guy, and I might wait for a Juwan Johnson or somebody else like that late, who I know is going to have some spike games for me. Last year at tight end, it was rather interesting because using my MVP index, there were 2 guys at 100, and that's a little bit unusual. The third guy didn't hit until he was in the 60s. So that's a huge gap. That's like a 30-point gap in MVP, which is huge. That's a huge advantage. And what Professor and I had luck with last year again in redraft was a lot of streaming. If we did not get an elite guy, we were streaming different tight ends almost every week. The other combination platter that I liked using, and I'll probably use again this year, with his injury uncertainty, is take the discount on Kittle and back him up with Tonjes. That way I've got a tight end from the 49ers pretty much locked in, assuming they don't do anything crazy and draft one. But I've used that strategy recently as well, and been successful with that. I don't mind doing that in best ball. I know you're limiting because of a bye week, but that bye week only bites you once.
I will say on tight end, last year, when I found that I had drafted some solid RBs and WRs, Dennis, I ended up with 4 tight ends. I would, on waivers, pick 1 or 2 up cheap, like Tonjes was out there 4 or 5 weeks, into the season, and I could pick him up where everybody was looking elsewhere. And I ended up, getting him and a few others. And I ended up with 4 on teams that I was already like, yeah, I'm going to make the playoffs and I'm going to make a big run. The teams that I felt like I couldn't do that, I was still trying to find my best, RB2 and 1. I injuries and I drafted like Chase and Burrow was hurt and I was struggling. But if you've got a solid front, I found with 20, we have 20 slots in FFPC. I actually had 4 tight ends on multiple teams that I took deep into the playoffs, and it helped me later on doing that streaming. In fact, I've even played a couple tight ends in the flex because this is tight end premium.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I remembered that, but just wanted to tell you, tight end premium. So sometimes I'll grab 4, but then it'll be like 2 out of the draft, and then I'll hoard 2 more that I missed, or they're just hanging out there for $1 on the waiver wire, just cheap. And I'm not going to take the 8th best WR. Why should I grab that one when I can, potentially have a spiky tight end that might help me on a bye week or something? Just a little trick.
So I drafted a team with Steve D'Angelo on the NFFC last year, and tight end is a position we decided we were going to punt. We liked a lot of mid to late round guys.
Right.
And I think we had Tucker Kraft. We ended up losing him, but we drafted 4 tight ends. I think we drafted
right.
Harold Fannin, Tucker Kraft. I'm trying to think of who else. They were all late round tight ends. Maybe Arande Gadsden. Yeah, I think Gadsden was one. We had 4, and then it led to who we starting. Who it was like week 9 came around. We're like, which one we play? We ended up like you said, Professor. We flexed. NFFC isn't
In and
tight
out.
end premium. Isn't tight end premium, but there were bye weeks and injuries that we dealt with, and like you said, that sometimes it comes in handy. You have that second playable tight end.
Yeah, and Dennis and I use my efficiency data, my home away splits, my defense against position metrics. So that's that next layer that we hadn't really talked about. We will in season for the matchup lab that we do for TSA. Y'all need to pay attention. We can help y'all make some money over at TSA, but I use that as that 3rd level to really tie break and whatnot. And, that can give us an advantage too. So a lot of times in the streaming, Dennis and I will be debating back and forth on, our last flex. So usually that's what we're talking, and tight ends are included in that discussion of slipping in that second flex kind of, or the play them all that Dennis talks about. You want to play them all when the defense against position says it's a good thing. It's a home game for the team that does well at home. A lot of that can shift to the play them all that Dennis and I kind of find ourselves with multiple RBs that are playing for one team. So when he said that, he didn't say we have more levels that we turn to finesse, because sometimes we'll have multiple play it all possibilities. So you just can't just randomly play them all. There's a reason you're playing all this week or these couple weeks or in the playoff. There's something to it there. And we have other levels of metrics that we flip in there and go to town with.
So Joe, I got a tight end that I want to ask you about, because I'm going around and around on this guy this year. And first, Professor, I need the current ADP for Dalton Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid here. Kincaid, where are you? Oh, Barner was one that I grabbed last year. Okay, Kincaid.
Oh yeah, he was
I will
good value last.
I will say this.
95. Yeah, 95. Overall.
Despite
Oh, that's
despite
nice
being
value.
despite being banged up some weeks, and I think he missed a game or two here and there. I don't have the player profile in front of me, but I
Yep.
believe Dalton Kincaid led the Buffalo Bills in touchdown receptions last year.
Well, he's a bargain compared to 5 weeks ago. He was 80 and now he's 95. So 15% drop. He's gone down his ADP. So one could argue, oh, he's cheaper now. So he's cheaper now than he was 5 weeks ago. He's at 95.
They added DJ Moore, and
but I think DJ Moore frees up the field more for Dalton.
He does.
Kincaid,
He does,
in my opinion. And I know you're betting on Kincaid not getting hurt if you want to invest in him this year, but I've never been good at predicting injuries. I know he missed time. He played fewer than 10 full games last year, but he had a 100 MVP in the games he did play. That's outstanding. That's typically tight end top 2 level. Okay. That's Bowers, McBride, Kittle, and Kelsey in his prime type of production. So I look at that and I say, I'm probably taking 2 tight ends anyway. If I can get Dalton Kincaid on the cheap and then get another cheap one to go with him, I might be okay with that as a strategy this year. And in best ball, he might be part of a trio of tight ends. I tend to like to take 3 tight ends in best ball. I prefer to have more of a balanced lineup and in best ball versus redraft. And so I'll quite often end up with 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, and then split up the running backs and wide receivers with the last 14 picks, and be kind of, again, we're in a 20 player draft at FPPC typically, and it is tight end premium. So that's why I also like it.
And this is a slim, so there's no defense or kicker. So I try to eliminate that in my best ball. It's just one less hassle trying to figure out what kickers to grab.
I like that you brought up Kincaid. That's because I put together a list of players that were affected by the free agencies.
Yes.
And Kincaid falls into that category. I didn't have him listed. I was working on it just before the show. But the DJ Moore signing definitely is the reason why he's dipped a little bit. That and I just think that guys like Harold Fannin and Colston Loveland, they're getting hype. They're getting all the hype right now. So it's somebody's got to fall if somebody's getting pushed up. And then I also think that people are pretty bullish on Kyle Pitts this year as well. So I think he's going ahead of Kincaid as well. Kincaid could be a forgotten about man here, Dennis. I think you're onto something here because, like I said, I mean, it's all about his availability. When he's on the field, Buffalo Bills offense was absolutely significantly better, and I think he was their top red zone target. So,
and he doesn't have to play real tight end with Dawson Knox in the game, so you're not having to get him jammed down the line. Another tight end I'm curious about, Professor, because I have a feeling that in the last few weeks he's gone way up. And I mean shorter ADP. Travis Kelsey.
Yeah.
Where is he going now?
Kelsey has in fact changed, and he was 128. He's now 97 overall.
97 is still cheap.
Oh yeah, he would be tight end 12. He's the last tight end 1 type. Him and Kittle are right there at that turn.
if I'm at the end of a draft, if I'm at the end of, end of a turn, because that
He'll
would
be
be,
going ninth round. He'll be a
yeah,
ninth round
if,
pick.
if I can go eighth, ninth turn,
You could get Kelsey and Kittle right back.
yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's some goodness to be had if you got some guts this year and
Yeah.
you want to roll the dice at tight end. There's some goodness that you can pick up, especially in best ball, because I think Kelsey, even if he doesn't have a great total points season, is going to have some spiky weeks for him, where he gets that. I mean, I can see a couple of 2-touchdown games for Kelsey. That Chiefs offense is going to have to score more points this year. They aren't going to have the luxury of a shutdown top 3 defense this year, maybe, with all the free agent losses. So, Les Veach, of course, is a superstar in the draft. That's always the concern. But looking at this, there's a lot of goodness with Kincaid, Kittle, and Kelsey that low.
Yes.
If you're willing to take some chances, you could get 2 of those 3 without a problem.
I think you could without a problem. Yes.
I'll go to war with those 2 guys and then a third super late guy, maybe an AJ Barner, maybe a Juwan Johnson, maybe taking Tonjes.
So in the, let's say 14th, you could do Kobe Parkinson had some situations. Gunnar Helm is right there. Njoku.
I like Gunnar Helm a lot.
Yeah, Tongas is still sitting out there in round 16. I mean, Dennis, if you grab Kittle at 9, you got to grab Tongas at 16. He's almost a free square.
Yeah,
at 16.
My concern with Kittle is he going to miss the first 4 weeks? But if you've got him backed up with Tonjes, you're fine.
But I'm saying you could easily do that. Round 9, round 16. That is not a problem to hoard those 2.
And in best ball, I don't mind that concept of grabbing Mahomes at value and backing him up late with Justin Fields. And now I've got the starter quarterback for the Chiefs lined up.
Who is Burrow's backup? Because
Flacco.
Given Burrow's is,
Yeah, Joe
Who's
Flacco's
that?
back.
I'd
signed Flacco.
be looking at that. I'd hate to draft Burrow and him blow up again in my best ball team. Not have Flacco.
Joe, that is a strategy I have used some in best ball lately, is 2 quarterbacks from the same team, the starter and the backup. So I know come the end of the season, I've got at least one body in there.
You would hope. You would hope.
You got to get really screwed with the bad luck if you lose them both.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
I've seen it happen in the 3-week shootout, the high stakes league. Guy ended up had 3 quarterbacks and then he didn't have any. So it can happen.
I had a league where I had I thought I was sitting pretty. I had Jaden Daniels, Jackson Dart, and Daniel Jones. Got him on the cheap. Boy, did I start strong. Boy, did I finish really bad. So yeah, you can get just rolled. But hey, what if I had grabbed, instead of grabbing both, if I had grabbed Jaden Daniels and Mariota as my duo, I would have been protected with at least one live quarterback.
Right.
Back end around.
Speaking of a quarterback,
right?
Yeah.
Speaking
of quarterbacks, I'm sorry, Joe. I was
just hitting the question in the chat right there. Where would you pick James Cook? Back end around 1.
We were discussing the players that have most shifted. I've got that data in the, like I said, 5 weeks ago, and now the number 1 quarterback was 273. He's 165 is Geno Smith. And then Stafford, so that's round 14. Stafford has gone from 96 to 74. Then Brissett, Murray, and Deshaun Watson are the top 5 quarterbacks that have had the most movement in the last 5 weeks in the FFPC. Any of those something y'all want to hit or draft? Other than Brissett, I'm not sure. Maybe Stafford, but he's getting expensive in round 7. That's a little bit that's expensive.
There's some better options, I think, after Stafford now with that rise.
Yeah. The quarterbacks, the ones that have declined is Penix and McCarthy, or have if you drafted them 5 weeks ago, they're cheaper now. If you liked them 5 weeks ago, you really like them now.
Atlanta's going to be in my no draft zone for quarterbacks. I might right now, looking at the ADP of London, he's too high for me with a lack of quarterback. I'm not crazy about Kyle Pitts, even with the coaching change. Obviously, Bijan is, contender for that first pick naturally. But other than that, I'm not crazy about it.
Drake London's at 22. He was 17, so he's dropped 20-something %. So he's, like I said, a lot of WRs have really declined. The highest decliners, Brian Thompson, Pearsall, Diggs, Mims, Pat Bryant are the 5 WRs that have really shifted the most. And the only one that's going in early is Brian Thomas. He was 66, now he's 96. That's 30 spots. Yeah, so what's going on with Brian Thomas? Why did that happen the last 5 weeks? That's a big shift, 66 to 96 overall.
Everybody looks at his really good weeks from his rookie season, and they were all with Mac Jones at quarterback. Not so good with Trevor Lawrence, but I can make the case that he got better in the second half of the season as a rookie. So with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, he might have done just as well. Last year, Brian Thomas was nursing some minor injuries all season long. Did that slow him down?
Sounds like you're making a case too, watching fall even more and taking
96. He starts getting on my radar because I liked his rookie year, and I kind of think I'm really on the Trevor Lawrence bandwagon right now. I like what he's doing. The question and the question that came in, Joe, about James Cook, I can't be high enough. I'm probably so much higher than consensus on him right now. He was my number 3 running back in MVP index last year at 131. He was not far behind Bijan Robinson at all. The top was, of course, McCaffrey at 164 and change. Then it was Bijan at 135, Cook and Achane at 131. So I'm looking at Cook and saying, why shouldn't he play back to at least 90%, 80%? Even if he drops.
He's 10 now. He's 10 overall.
Yeah.
He was 14 5 weeks ago. So he has 40% change. So he's starting to cost you a little more. If you like Cook, you should have drafted 5 weeks ago. Could have got him in the second round.
Yeah, I can make a case for him as early as RB6 off the board this year.
Well, he's 10 now.
I'd be happy with that.
So the biggest changer of RBs in the last 5 weeks, anybody want to guess? If you looked at my chart, but
is it Tootin, Bashal Tootin?
Nope.
No.
Nope. David Montgomery was 104, and now he's 48th. overall.
Wow.
What happened
Boy.
there?
Well, if he's the lead back for Houston,
Is
and
that
Houston
why
actually
they don't?
Yes.
Nobody
Yeah.
remembers Woody Marks. They just think, oh, he's nothing.
I think it's going to be a split myself. I don't.
But still, a split. Is he worth that
That's too
change? You
early
could
for
have
a
got him
split.
104
Yeah,
4
I
or
kind
5
of like.
weeks ago.
I wouldn't mind him about pick 70-ish, but
Well,
earlier,
he's 48 now.
yeah, 48. I'm having a hard time making a case for him at 48 because I think that's a split.
Yeah. Yeah, here's just the overall, and I probably should put the other ones. I actually measured the percent change.
Hey,
I'm not sure
Joe, what
I
happens?
shared that
What
with
happens?
you.
Could you imagine if Houston takes another running back? What that's going to
Oh
do to
my
Montgomery?
goodness. Oh my
And
goodness.
I don't think it's out of the question. They tried. They basically ran three guys out there with some. There were three guys that got at least 15 or more touches in a game last year. Some of it was due to injury, of course.
Wow.
But I think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to lean on Montgomery with a heavy load. I don't see him getting consistently
Don't you
over
think he's
20.
the red zone guy? They're going to run Marks?
No, I think Montgomery will have a
And
goal
then
line
Montgomery
role.
picks
He'll
it
have
up?
the early. Woody Mox is the pass catching back. They're trying to do like
Okay, well,
that's kind of how
okay.
I'm reading that situation.
Okay,
I do
okay.
think Montgomery's going to be solid, but 49 is kind of high.
Is
Yeah,
he going to
that's
is he going to get consistently over 20 touches a game?
I mean, they do. I think he's in between 15 and 20, but
That's what I'm saying. I don't see
yeah.
them leaning into him hard.
You think that the defense matches what they did last year? You think they come with the same? You think there's any regression in their defense whatsoever that could lead to more passing? Or
I'm still worried about their offensive line.
yeah,
This is the second year in a row they're trying to rebuild and make changes. That's what's got me is I'm not sure. And again, if he was going 70s, I'm jumping at it. As he gets under 50, I'm having a hard time.
yeah, 49 is high.
That seems early to me. Professor, who's going around him right now? Like
as far as
two running backs before him and two running backs after Montgomery.
okay, so let me just got to sort. I probably should put this out too. Let's see. Here we go, John. Play around. ADP. Here we go. And Montgomery, where are you?
Quinshaw Jenkins, Bashal Tootin, Cam Scatterbo,
Yeah.
Roma Dunze, DJ Moore,
Swift
Devontae.
and Henderson are 45, 44, 46. RJ Harvey is 57, Tootin at 58. So, Dennis, it looks like those are the two above, two below. Who would you rather have of those five?
I don't want Tootin. I think
Swift? Is Swift too long in the tooth at 46?
I don't think so. I think there's a split between him and Menange, but I wouldn't mind taking both of those guys. Where's Menange going now? Kyle Menange from Chicago.
He is going around 85.
Boy, there's going to be a lot of. I know there's going to be a lot of change to this after the draft if the Bears add another running back. But boy, that combo looked really good in the playoffs last year, didn't they?
Yes, it did.
And it's going to be a split. So I don't know. Joe, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about Tootin because I'm scared of that one.
I gotta see if he survive. I could see them drafting somebody.
Yeah.
I gotta see. Yeah, they're definitely gonna draft somebody. I'm thinking. Tootin was one of the players that I wrote down that I wanted to mention the ADP movement in February. In February, he was middle of the 7th round. Now he's in the middle of the 5th, towards the back end of round 5. That's mainly because ETN, left. ETN signed with the Saints. So now he is a free agent winner, clearly. But yeah, I'm worried about the draft. I got to see what happens after the draft. I think if he survives the draft, or if they take a running back who I think isn't going to affect him at all, or challenge him for significant touches, we'll say, then maybe in on him. I don't know. Round 5 seems kind of high too. So for Tootin, for basically an unproven commodity there in the round 5, you're kind of taking a risk.
In part-time duty last year, he was about a 67 in my MVP index. That puts him at about RB 29, or I'm sorry, RB 25 level. So that's a little early to be shopping that high for a guy. And yeah, there are a lot of landmines out there right now, depending on what happens in the draft. I know people are like, well, after Jeremiah Love, there's a whole lot out there. I disagree with that. The right landing positions for a few of these running backs, and I'm looking at them in a whole different light.
He would be 26 now, Dennis. They're drafting him Tootin at 26 RB. So
that's
sounds like it's a cost. At best, it's a cost.
It's kind of at what I think might be
his best, could be
his best if he can hold on to the starting job, and that's the concern I have for him. There's some running backs, Joe, that I'm looking at now, and I mean, Love is obviously number one with a bullet. He's at the top of the list, but I'm kind of curious to see where Katron Allen falls. He intrigues me. I'm kind of looking at Jonah Coleman. I like him a lot better than a lot of people do. I'm curious about Emmett Johnson, where he lands.
Mike Washington.
Mike Washington is another guy. I mean, could you imagine if Mike Washington drops all the way down to Seattle? All of a sudden, all of a sudden you're looking, you got Charbonnet out for a while, and the only thing they added was a depth piece. So
it's just George Holani after that.
Yeah. And and I know he was backing up Love, and the metrics didn't look as good when he was on the field with the same line, but Jadarian Price is a player. So it's not like any of these guys are a lock to do great things, but all the way down to like an Adam Randall from Clemson, depending where they land, depending on how early they go in the draft, I think there's a pool of about 6 to 8 running backs where like 2 of them are going to emerge out of that group. The question is which 2, and I don't have a clue. That's why I'm going to be playing the opportunity game, looking at where they land and who the incumbent is. And I'm like trying to do like some kind of incantation, or we might even go to the voodoo role, because we have Cam Scatabo on our dynasty team that the professor and I run. And Jeremiah Love landing with Scatabo would make me very, very sad. I'm trying to convince the Giants that they have a bigger hole on defense and they need to get a premium defender instead of taking the best running back that we've seen come out of the draft in a while, because Jeremiah Love, in my opinion, Joe, he's a far better prospect than Ashton Giante was last year at this time.
Wow. Joe, you agree with that? Come on.
It's close. It's close.
Would you bet on that if you were doing props?
I think
Vegas? If Vegas
I-
had that, what would you bet?
I think Ashton Genty got a much better landing spot than what Jeremiah Love was possibly going to get, because Genty is the guy where he is the running back. Like, he's high volume. He's got enough opportunity to give you that 25-point spike week. Jeremiah Love, and say he ends up in Washington. Now you're dealing with a split with Rashad White. Rashad White is a veteran who can play all three downs. He can pass protect. He can do the third down role. He's a great red zone target. I think he would eat into Jeremiah Love's role in year one. Now, I'm not saying that that Washington's going to draft him. That's just coming off the top of my mind. Now, if he ends up in Tennessee, Tony Pollard is still there. Now, I'm a Tony Pollard truther, so I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I think Tony Pollard will still have a role with Jeremiah Love present. And I think that's going to cap his ceiling in year one. I think Jeremiah Love is looking at a potential tough landing spot to to take a risk from where he's being drafted, as opposed to Ashton Genty. I mean, Genty disappointed as well last year. Don't get me wrong, but he did have a handful of spike weeks.
Yes, yeah. I think any team that invests in Love is going to lean into that if he's healthy. Yes, you'll have change of pace backs because they're not going to run 30 times a game. We aren't going back to the early 90s here, and having a guy run the ball 35 times, in a game where 25 is the most you're going to get, for any back nowadays, it seems. But I think his chances of being 20 plus touches if he goes to Tennessee is pretty good. If he goes to the Giants, I think there's even a shot at that happening, because of the coach likes to lean in. If he goes to Washington, I agree with you. It could be chaos city, because we've seen that he likes to play the notorious hot hand guy and to mix it up, and that could be chaos if he goes to Washington. Although Washington would be probably the best offense he could land on, right?
Probably, but I mean, do we like Jaden Daniel? Then there's you factor in, does Jaden Daniels take some rushing opportunity away? I'm
going to plant a flag on this one. Everybody and their third cousin is talking pretty consistent. Hey, it's going to be the Giants, it's going to be Tennessee, going to be Washington. I think somebody's going to trade up to get him. I think he is such an elite running back possibility. I think somebody is going to trade up to get him. I just haven't figured out who yet, but I think somebody's going to trade up to get him.
What kind of trade are you envisioning?
Now you got me thinking. It would have to be a contending team if you're talking. I think who would it be?
Who would it be, Dennis?
Denver? Would Denver be a possibility there?
No, I don't necessarily see Denver. Okay. It could be a team that could like to really screw with my existing players in Dynasty. Could you imagine if the Bears got gutsy and decided to trade up and try to get him? Or Cincinnati is another team that could be in the running. What about Seattle? Seattle gives up some draft capital and jumps all the way up to grab him. There's some interesting possibilities of what could happen here. How about Pittsburgh trading up to go get him? They've got two good depth pieces with Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle, but that's a possibility. There are enough teams out there that could make us. How about Jacksonville? That's a team that might be prime. They made the playoffs last year. What if they add the best running back in the draft?
I
There's
mean,
a
after
lot.
they did trade up last year to go get the guy they wanted, right?
Yeah, they would be. Yeah, they'd have. They're limited in draft capital unless they go into future years. But you know, I'm just saying there are a lot of teams out there that I think there's going to be a crazy trade that's going to happen early in the draft. That's going to be going up. We didn't see that one coming. Could be wrong, but I think that's what we might be looking at. There's so many players this year, Joe, after the first couple of picks that I think are pretty much set. I mean, I'm not sure exactly where he's going, but Avril Reese is going early, somewhere in the first three picks. And of course, we know Mendoza's going to the Raiders unless they do a trade. I mean, there could be some wacky things that happen here out in Pittsburgh. And it's going to be interesting to see. I think there's more uncertainty on where a few of these guys are going than others think. And you know, where are the wide receivers going? Where's Tate going? Where's Lemon going? Where's those are the guys that I'm really curious to see, because I think there's a few wide receivers that could change the landscape out there as well once we know where they land.
Yep, the rookie landing spots will definitely shuffle some stuff up once again. It'll make us dive into the situation, see who's going to benefit, who isn't, and who it's going to hurt, and what it's going to do to their value. I mean, obviously ADPs are going to move again, so we need those landing spots.
Professor, looking at the ADP, were there any guys that you spotted that you said, based on your metrics, that you looked at and you said, why is that guy so cheap? I mean, you mentioned Brissett earlier, because he does really well in both your Bush LR and your COM data. But
I hadn't really flipped that out, Dennis. I guess we could. I could go fish that.
So I made a list of guys that stuck out to me when I was looking at ADP.
Okay, go ahead.
I was looking at I have FFPC Best Ball ADP. I'm using Draft Shocks. Mm-hmm. So I think they take it from a certain time frame. I don't know, but I'll start with so guys that I was surprisingly cheap to me since the NFL free agency, since our last show. Cortland Sutton. I know the professors, I know Dennis isn't a Cortland Sutton guy, but after Jalen Waddle was added to Denver, Cortland Sutton went from the beginning of the 6th round to the middle of the 7th round. He fell a full round. This is something that I happen to think that Cortland Sutton's going to benefit from Jalen Waddle being there. I don't think Jalen Waddle necessarily takes away from him. It actually makes me feel more confident because that they signed Waddle, because that tells me Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, and the rest of the pass catchers on the team are less of a priority. They're not taking the step forward that we thought they were going to be. So I think that they're going to condense down a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying Bryant and Franklin are going to totally disappear, But I think Cortland Sutton becomes a value around cheaper. He's somebody I might be interested in at that spot. I'd like to see him fall a little bit more. I think it's quite possible that he could, especially once we start seeing some Bo Nix to Jalen Waddle highlights, or maybe Denver goes out and drafts a tight end, and that throws a little chaos into the situation, which further pushes him down. So Cortland Sutton's one guy I noticed that dropped a little bit. We were talking about this before we went live. Kayshon Boutte. He was already pretty cheap in round 13. Now he's basically a free square in round 16.
Wow.
After Romeo Doubs was signed. Romeo Doubs moved up 4 rounds. He went from round 12 to middle of round 12 to the back of round 8. So 3.5 rounds, really. And a couple of guys who keep falling. And I noticed that this is something I pay attention to every year, and it seems to be a trend. The wide receivers that still remain free agents, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel. Last year it was Keenan Allen. Just forgot about in drafts, and they just completely fell. Tyreek Hill was going in round 12 in February, now in round 15. Deebo Samuel, back end of round 11, now back end of round 14. So, these guys don't have a home yet, but at that point in the draft, I think it's worth a shot. If they end up somewhere landing somewhere where they can be a significant part of the offense, then, they're clear. That'll shoot. Like if Tyreek Hill was to sign with the Patriots, just throwing it out there. I think he would instantly go from round 15 to like round 8, round 9. He would easily move up a significant amount. Same thing with Deebo Samuel. If he landed somewhere, I could see him moving up. Maybe not as much as Tyreek Hill would move up, but Deebo's still pretty good. So these guys are free picks right now in round 15. Christian Watson, I noticed, dipped a little as well. I'm trying to figure that one out. Only a half a round, but it's a dip. I think he might have been part of that wide receivers falling back because the running backs are getting pushed up a little bit. That the professor was talking about earlier. So
Right.
maybe that's how he ended up getting pushed down a half a round. But Christian Watson was going at the beginning of round 6. I mean, in the middle of round 5, now you can get him at the 5-6 turn as late as pick 6-1, 6-2. So that's almost a full round. Bucky Irvin with the addition of Kenneth Gainwell, which, by the way, I don't think I think this helps Kenny Gainwell. I mean Bucky Irvin. I think that he is like pure insurance. Because we know that he can step in and play a three down role. I'm not saying he won't be involved in third downs. He will be involved in the passing game, but it's not going to be every single third down. It's not going to be, they're going to be like designed plays more. So I think they're going to ride Bucky until the wheels fall off. And I think that's why they went out and signed Kenny Gainwell, because they have somebody that they can fall back on. So Bucky Irvin in February was the beginning to mid round 3. He's fallen a full round. He's going in the middle of round 4 now.
Ooh, I like
so
that.
That's a dip I'm paying attention to.
I'll lean into that dip. Yeah.
A lot of people worried about that being a timeshare, with Sean Tucker still there, and the way he carved out a goal line role towards the end. I mean, I don't see them using a full three running backs. I really do think that they just ride Bucky until the wheels fall off. I don't see them really. I don't know. I think that's what people are worried about is it ended up being a crazy committee, but
no, I see a 60-40 split with Bucky getting the 60.
Yeah.
What I'm anticipating. And I think at the current price tag he's going, he's much more attractive than he was a round or two earlier. Here's one thing I'm going to point out about Keishon Butte. First 8 weeks last year, 4 games of 13 or more, including a 26-point game and a pair of 16s. Then he got hurt. Wasn't the same after that. But they got 3 more spike weeks out of Mac Hollins in his place. So that cheap for Butte in best ball, I kind of like his chances of being a 5 or 6 spike week guy, which at that price tag, that'd be pretty dang nice. And there's the possibility they give you a little bit more. So I like Butte at that price tag.
Nice.
And one more thing, the Cortland Sutton thing. He's fallen to a level that I kind of start being a buyer, because again, in best ball, more so than I like him. I've always liked him more in best ball than redraft, because he can have those little weeks, those weeks that you just drive you crazy. But I don't care about that in best ball. He's got some spike week potentials. He's got some 2 touchdown games in him. I love his upside. And at that price tag, I'm leaning into it. Waddle's a really good player, but Sutton's the big body guy that's hard to stop, and he'll be on the field. Him and Bryant will be on the field quite a few downs when they go 2 wide receivers, because they're both pretty darn good blockers as well. That was a good call on Sutton. I'm at his price tag now. I'm starting to take a look, because he is.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, I think there's room for more falling of his ADP. With what could happen, we got to see what happens in the NFL draft.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think some of the rookie wide receivers might be a little overvalued, depending on where they drop, because I think people will be, he's got a wide receiver 1 potential with that team. The interesting thing is, I think people are going to really react if New Orleans goes wide receiver at 8, I think people are going to go gaga over that. And I don't think it's going to hurt Olave's value at all, in my mind.
No, I don't think so either. Olave's is a pretty consistent, reliable wide receiver 1 in my mind. It's amazing that we were even able to get him in the 6th round last year. I can't believe he fell that much last year because of his obviously his not being available to put in your starting lineup. But I've always been big on Chris Olave. I've done 1 dynasty startup draft maybe 3 years ago, and I took him in the 2nd round. So I think his talent is through the roof. He gets the volume. He's one of the highest targeted players in the league for sure.
I know the professor,
and he's on a shitty team that's going to be passing a lot. Yeah,
I know the professor keeps an eye on him as a old Aints fan. He's got his bag there in the background. You can see it's hanging on the wall. But Olave, what impressed me more last year is watching a couple of games of his. I think he's learned how to avoid the big hit now. And his problem was the concussions. He spent too much time in the daggone concussion protocol the previous 2 years. He seemed to be avoiding the big hits last year, and that was a good sign for me. It's never been about his talent. And I know the professor and I were all over Olave last year. He was our number one value wide receiver guy. I had him on more teams than I think any other wide receiver last year.
I was on him as well and collected some money because of him. He was great.
Another player I wanted to mention, if you guys, he's moved up. This is a player that's moved up in ADP. Are you so in February you could get this guy at the back end around 8 after free agency. Now he's one of the biggest free agency signings. He's now in the middle of round 5. DJ Moore. Are we paying up middle of round 5 for DJ Moore on Buffalo?
Dennis?
He's basically back to where he was being drafted early last year.
Yeah, so DJ Moore is a guy that the last couple of years have been very interesting because 2 years ago, I had a lot of DJ Moore because I liked the move to the Bears. Last year, I avoided DJ Moore because I figured Dunze was going to get better, and I thought Burden, and I thought Loveland. So a lot of competition for targets, and I was not happy with where DJ Moore was going in the draft. Heading into this year, I'm not sure that DJ Moore has that prototypical alpha WR1 characteristic to him. I don't necessarily suggest that Shakir is going to be better than him, but Shakir can make some plays. So I don't think he's totally dead. And DJ Moore had a decline last year and now heads into his age 29 season. I have a problem with that. I don't mind a 29, 30, early 30s wide receiver if he isn't showing any sign of decline. I was all over Devontae Adams last year, as a matter of fact, because his value is so good. And his age didn't bother me one bit. But when I see a player slip in consistency and upside consistency, he dropped like a rock last year. He went from the year before, his MVP index, again, measure of upside consistency, went from a 90 all the way down to in the 20s. Had a really strong playoff for the Bears. And I think that's that and the trade has been what excites people. Now, in recent history, he had a 47 back in 2022 after having an 86 the year before, and then bounced back to a 94. So he's got the pedigree to bounce back. But at age 29, I'm concerned. You're paying for about an 85 MVP, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to hit that mark. I think that's his ceiling. I don't like to draft guys at their ceiling.
And what's scary to me though right now is even at that 5 point, that middle of the 5th round is where he's going now. He's not going to get any cheaper. I think he's only going to move up a little bit more with he's attached to the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen offense. They've desperate need of a playmaker. That's what he does. He's great with the football after the catch. Opportunity to hit that 90 MVP index is going to be there. It's so, I mean, you were getting this guy in round 8 a couple of months ago. But when you're talking getting closer to August and, redraft season, I can only see that going up. I think he's only going to get more expensive. So as far as then, like in a contest now where you're dealing with teams that have them in round 8, obviously you're not picking them, especially if you've already got a few shares. But I think if he stays in round 5, I'll probably take a few shots on him. But if he creeps up into round 4, now you're getting a little too dicey at that point. There's tons of good players going in round 4 that I'd rather have over than DJ Moore, and I love DJ Moore, but I think in the right builds, I'm taking a shot on him in the middle of round 5.
Yeah.
For me, I'm probably lower than all y'all, so I'm 8 sounded okay, but 5 sounds way too expensive right now. Without, if I'm having to choose today, I'm probably not choosing him.
Right.
My big concern is if you get a healthy Dalton Kincaid, then all of a sudden is, do Shakir and him and DJ Moore split? And how about this? How about adding one more wrinkle? It would not shock me to see Buffalo take a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. Wouldn't shock me one bit.
It's definitely possible. That's a good point.
What if Casey Concepcion's available to them? All of a sudden, DJ Moore doesn't look so good, does he?
He's back. Then he's back in the similar situation he was last year.
Yeah, not because Concepcion's going to be a better player as a rookie, but it just widens out. It just spreads out all those targets. One more layer, and that's why I say right now, just a little over 11 days from the draft, 10 days from the draft. This is a dangerous time to be playing best ball. It's fun because you got that speculation upside that you can hit on a few guys. But I think if I did take DJ Moore in a best ball draft now, I would probably look at some of the rookie wide receivers at value and say, do one of these guys end up in Buffalo? Maybe I'll take a Concepcion to have, that strength of, hey, I got 2 shots at a Buffalo touchdown, on any given week. And here's another one for you, Joe. What if that offensive line falls back a little bit with Buffalo? That's another concern that I have, because there were times last year where they did not look like world beaters, especially late in the year. They weren't really doing much to protect Josh Allen. He was running for his life. He got away with it because he's Josh Allen, but that is certainly going to cut into your wide receiver production if he doesn't have time to throw the ball down the field. And this gets to what I'm always telling people, Joe. I said, if you have only one take on any given player, if you don't see the range of outcomes, you've become a fan and not somebody who's trying to analyze the data. I could look at any player in the NFL, including Josh Allen, who deservingly is the quarterback 1, but older quarterbacks tend to run less eventually. One guy that I am way out on this year that I will not be adding to any teams is Lamar Jackson. Our upside consistency metrics hate Lamar Jackson going into this season, and I don't think the coaching change is going to do him any favors either.
I'm looking elsewhere versus him.
And again, at price.
At price.
I think I might agree with that. Derrick Henry's still there.
Derrick Henry is the guy that I will probably end. He seems to be the guy that everybody is always figuring is going to get a year old fast, and seems to be the unicorn that defies that logic of age.
I'll never forget watching. I watched a game that they lost at the national championship game, the college. They lost, and he had like 370 something rushing. Yeah, I was like, what? He was good. I was like, that boy is going to be special when he gets to the NFL, and it took him a solid year to really start rumbling. But once he did, man, it started showing. But yeah, he is a different breed, and as long as he's there, they're gonna be riding him as much as possible. As long as he's there and he's upright. And I think that caps Lamar Jackson a little bit, like you said, the consistency.
And I'm a little concerned about losing the center, because when Derrick Henry was getting a lot of his runs up the middle, and that center of that line just dominated. And now losing their center to free agency, I know they've tried to add, but I think he was a special center there last year, and he signed. That's one of the reasons I do kind of think we're going to see a much better Raiders offense, is because they weren't shy on spending a lot of money up front.
Nice. That's it. So my list of players are all covered. You guys have any other guys you want to discuss as far as ADP movement?
I think I've hit. I mean, I can dig deeper, but I think we've hit, the highlights.
And I think so too. This has been a great episode, guys.
Thanks, Joe, for having us. We appreciate. It's good to hear the sounding board of the Dennis.
I think the professor gets tired of my could be this, could be that. He's like, make up your damn mind.
Well, that's why I pinned you down on probabilities. So you can't flip flop like an old, fish or flipping on the boat there.
As an old weather forecaster, that hey, I famously
could rain, maybe.
I famously put out a forecast for lake effect snow for South Bend, Indiana, for 3 days out. I told them on a Friday broadcast. I told them you're going to get 1 to 3, and he says, "Oh, okay, that doesn't sound too bad." And they said, "Wait a minute, 1 to 3? Do you mean inches?" I said, "Oh, it'll be inches or feet. We'll find out on Monday." So
yeah, there you go.
That's kind of the way I like to. That's the way I like to play fantasy football this time of the year too. Could do this, could do that. But
you gotta think in range of outcomes, right?
Yeah. And my first forecast for 2026 is just going together right now, and that's going to be something I will share some of my my curious teams that I'm curious if they had a running back or a wide receiver. I'm going to be putting that out by the end of the week.
Nice.
I want to shout out everybody in the chat. James agrees this was awesome. James, Jamie, who else was in there? Wendy, Rachel. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Everybody in the chat, we appreciate you tuning in to live, interacting. We like that. Drop your questions. We try to get to most of them. Dennis and the professor, another great show in the books. Hey, we got to come back after the NFL draft and do another one of these after it gets shaken up a little bit with the landing spots, and then we're on the main drag right into the draft season.
And the expo, tell everybody, come meet us at the expo. Joe, you going this year to the expo?
I'm still working on it. I do plan to go, yeah. But
I enjoy visiting with you and, you know, Iggy and
Yeah,
JC and
absolutely.
everybody and Greg. I love all that guys.
Well,
Dennis and I will plan to be there.
I'm still working out my vacation time because I have a draft in New York I got to do. I got the fantasy football expo, and I started a new job the end of last year, and I don't want to be like, hey, I have to approach the time off thing properly. But I think the fantasy football expo is a priority. Is it my understanding that we're getting a house? Are we as JC and Greg and Iggy getting a house this year? Are we staying at a house? I mean, there was talks.
I haven't heard what they're doing.
I mean, we got to find out all the details here before. I know my wife won a ticket to the expo on the Fans Classic draft.
Nice.
Whatever with the team that she drafted. There were two teams from her league that won fantasy football expo tickets.
Nice.
So,
very nice.
yeah, James. I think there's been rumblings about it, man. I think we just
house party. Oh my god!
I might be too old for that.
If we get a house, there's definitely going to be a poker game that happens. I'm definitely running a cash game.
Lord.
If we get a house.
Fleece the fools. Joe's holding the fleece the fools at the party. Yeah, I know.
He's not a guy I'm not sure I want to play poker against.
That's right. I'm not going to be the fool at the table.
Yeah,
unless Dennis is there, then he'll flip back and forth on who's the fool.
That old saying that if you can't find the sucker at the table in the first 30 minutes, you are the sucker. That's how I would feel at that table. I'd look across at Joe going, all right, I tell you what, why don't I just hand you the money?
Handing the money.
Make it a little easier for you.
Every now and then, it's nice to be in a game that's like that, though. And then after then you finally get a pot that breaks your way, and you reach behind in your chair and you grab your little rack and you start putting the chips in it, and everyone's like, "Where the fuck you going? What are you doing?" Yeah, I know how to get the hell out of here after this. I'm out of here.
That's right.
Smart move, my man.
That is smart. Like it.
Nice. 200, 500. Perfect. Right? No, right. That's right there. Nice and friendly. No one's gonna be crying. I like that. 200 to 500 buy-in at the TSA house.
Pennies, not dollars, right?
Yeah. Nice. All right. So we're gonna call it a show. Dennis.
Excellent.
And the professor, you guys have anything else you want to add? You already made your pitch of what you guys got going on and stuff.
We're at Science of Fantasy Football. We're doing our podcast, and we try to do a data lab for the TSA. And I'm going to post some of this stuff on the TSA Discord. Y'all need to join. You need to subscribe. Bug Joe, every episode he's doing with some really good guests. Bug him. And put him through his paces. Make him earn his spot here as one of the best hosts that I've worked with. Make him earn it. Okay. Can't sit on his laurels. Joe's the best. Common sense Joe. That's what we call him.
My favorite part about having you guys on as guests is is really no show prep. I mean, like very little. We're just going to get on and we're going to shoot the shit about best ball. Professor's going to have all the data and the charts ready. Dennis is going to have answers and follow-up questions to me. And all I have to do is bring the common sense and maybe some entertainment.
I like it.
So, yeah, always a good show. We'll be doing this again maybe 2 weeks after the NFL draft. We'll let 2 weeks of drafting go through so we have some data to chew on, as the professor says.
Yes. That's right.
And speaking of poker, I may as well talk about it now. I
Uh-oh.
finally booked a Polka fantasy football guest. Going to be on Cinco de Mayo, May
Nice.
5th. Got my buddy Duke Viveros. I don't know if you guys know him. He's a successful high stakes fantasy football player as well. He's now playing poker professionally. He's going to be spending 44 days out at the World Series.
Nice.
We're gonna learn all about Duke. I've been trying to get him on the show since we started last year in May. We finally got him on. He's coming May 5th. It's going to be a late night show. He's on the West Coast. It's also my daughter's birthday, so I'm sure I'll be doing stuff throughout the day. So it'll be a later show, maybe like 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern time, which is good. You know, he's on the West Coast, so it's not late for him. But yeah, Duke Viveros, NFFC, FFPC legend, and poker player. He's also a retired police officer from the state of Arizona. Yeah, he was on the show Cops. He was on the highlight reel. So
I watch Cops. Yeah,
we'll be talking all. I'm definitely going to bring that up when he's on. Like
Nice.
I said, we're going to get to know him for about 20 minutes or a half an hour, and then we're going to talk poker and maybe a little bit of football. Let me get some little bit of football out of him.
Sounds like a great guest.
Yeah, great guest, great guy. Can't wait for that May 5th. But that's it. That's all I got for now. Dennis and the professor, thank you again, guys. We're going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, drop a comment. We love you.